Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome home. My name is Danny Yanez, class of 2008 from the School of Architecture. As Dolly mentioned, this award honors non-alumni of Notre Dame who have contributed outstanding service to the university and whose lives exemplify the spirit of Notre Dame. Our recipient is the longest active tenured coach in men's lacrosse at the D1 level. He arrived on campus in 1988 and has built Notre Dame into one of the premier men's lacrosse programs in the entire country. He has led the Fighting Irish to the NCAA championship weekend 5 times, including 4 out of the last 8 seasons. Notre Dame isn't a football or basketball school, it's a lacrosse school. No pressure, coach. I had the pleasure of speaking to several student athletes that played under him. One of them mentioned to me in 1991, this student athlete just lost his father that fall. The lacrosse player felt sorry for himself and wanted to take the easy route and quit playing. He went into the coach's office, mustered enough courage, and broke the news to him that he thought about quitting. Coach looked him in the eye and said, "Here's what we're going to do." He gave him the entire fall semester off and allowed him to rejoin the team in the spring. Coach knew the student athlete needed the team more than he needed him. Coach refused to let him quit when the going got tough. So when he rejoined the team that spring, he had the best season of his career, and Notre Dame made the NCAA tournament that year. I first learned about Coach during my freshman year when my roommate was a defenseman on the lacrosse team. If people can describe him in 3 words, they say intense, passionate, and competitive. He never gives up on his players, and that's why they would run through a brick wall for him. He has a huge heart, and when he smiles, it is sincere. It is my pleasure to award this year's Dr. William P. Sexton Award to Notre Dame dad, family man, and coach, Kevin Corrigan.
I should probably quit while I'm ahead. Thank you very much. That was very nice. First, I want to say, Sarah, thank you for all the incredible work that you do. I knew your dad very well. I don't know if you know, you probably were out of the house by the time he started coming over and talking to our recruits. But when I first got here, we didn't have a lot to brag about in lacrosse. So we used to bring your dad and Bill Leahy and Chuck Lennon and some people over to talk to our recruits so that we could brag about something until we got better at lacrosse. So they were the guys. This is really humbling to get any award that has the name Bill Sexton attached to it. My dad was here in the early 80s, had the opportunity to work with Mr. Sexton, and just had such great respect for him, for his family. I wish you hadn't gotten this all emotional stuff going, because this is going to be like a Corrigan family reunion now. We're going to laugh, we're going to cry, at least I am. I don't know about any of you. But really, you know, it means so much to get an award that has the Sexton family attached to it. So I have great respect for them. My father had great respect for them. And I'm really humbled and appreciative of the fact that this award, you know, to get this award, because I have, to be somehow thought that I had an impact at Notre Dame is incredible, because I just know the incredible impact that Notre Dame has had on me my family. So to feel like there's some reciprocation there is one of the great honors that anybody could ever pay me. Sorry. Indulge me for 1 second. I had the greatest time this past weekend. We had an open weekend. We never have open weekends in our season. We had an open weekend this year. It happened to be a Saturday in April that was the day of my dad's 90th birthday. So my family and I, sorry, we went back to Baltimore, where my parents are from, and spent a day traveling around Baltimore in a trolley car, going to all my parents' old haunts, right? And hearing the stories of their life from them, from grade school to, the things that they used to do. I mean, this was, 90 years ago, right? Or, 80 years ago. And, my dad talking about, they used to have to walk a mile to church. There were 4 boys in the family, and one of them had to serve at Mass every day of the week, but the church was a mile away and they didn't have a car, so they had to walk. Every guy had their day of the week. They had to get up and walk to Mass at 7 a.m. to serve Mass and then come back for breakfast before they went to school. And they had a 2-bedroom house with 7 kids, 1 bathroom, a tub, which is why my dad said they all started playing athletics, because there were showers involved. So it was as good a reason as you could have had at that point, I think. But as he told those stories, I was just struck by a couple things, and I related to this because I know it's the same thing that Notre Dame believes, and it was so impactful in my life. The first thing was how incredibly grateful they were, my parents. My dad grew up with nothing. They had 7 kids, and they didn't have a lot. He always says my mom grew up with a silver spoon. But she was the daughter of immigrants. And both of them just have always had this wonderful sense of gratitude about everything in their life. And I think it's, something I've always appreciated, I think, at Notre Dame. You have the same kind of sense here when you're here. We all have Notre Dame's such a place of inspiration, and the work that the people do here is incredible. It's so much more important. When my dad, one of the stops on the trolley was my mom's childhood home, and my dad told of going to tell my grandfather that he wanted to marry my mom, and he said my grandfather, who was an Italian immigrant, who was a tailor, had left at 15 years old to come to America, had made himself a success as a tailor in the clothing business. And he looked at my dad and said, "Well, does this mean that you're going to stop playing those silly games and get a job now?" And that was, the games worked out okay for my dad over time, but that was his sense of what a guy should be doing. But it's such a place of inspiration because of the important things that happen here, the important work that gets done. It's such a place of aspiration because when you're here for a while, you can't help but kind of raise your sights and really have aspirations to do so much more. When I first came to Notre Dame, I really had one objective in mind. It was to win enough games to get a job somewhere else. And that's the honest to goodness truth. That was at that point. That was all I wanted. And you know what? To be here 30 years later, still doing the same thing, it's because I had to rethink the whole thing, right? And I had to realize that it's not about winning games anyway. It's about the people, and it's about the kids that I've had the honor to coach. It's about the guys that I've had the honor to work with. Sorry. So, anyway, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to Dick Rosenthal, who hired me for one very good reason. I was the only guy who would take the job for the money I want to say thank you to the coaches that I've worked with, the coaches that I work with now, who've been great friends, great colleagues. Thank you to the players who, have changed my life more than I ever could have changed theirs. Liz, thank you for allowing me to do this, allowing me to play games for 30 years. I always said the greatest blessing in my life was my family, but the greatest privilege has been to be at Notre Dame for 30 years. So thank you very much.